I'm Dave Coven, class of 91 and the PRI president. Thank you for joining us. We're also going to record this because lots of people have different conflicts today so that we can share it with the broader audience. But let me just give you a quick summary of what we're going to do on the webinar. I'm going to give you a few updates, and then we're going to hear from the coaches on some of their reflections on this year in Princeton Rowing, and then from some of the captains. And then we will end with a video of Princeton Rowing. So first, thank you all. That you really make Princeton Rowing possible, and we appreciate that. Everything that happens at the boathouse really happens because of you. An update on the locker room that many of you generously gave to last fall. Unfortunately, couldn't start construction during the summer as planned, but we look forward to doing that next summer. The other couple updates that I want to mention before I'll turn it over to the coaches are that, as you may have seen, we also now have a website that's the virtual Princeton Rowing History. So if you haven't gone on the website at rowing.princeton.edu to either find pictures of your teammates, or if you want to contribute pictures, please do so. And then the last thing that I just want to mention is that in addition to dollars, many of you give very generously of your time to be mentors to the student athletes. That's always been important, and it's now more important than ever, particularly as sometimes internships don't turn out as planned given what's going on, and as we look forward to the graduating class next year. So mentorship can be as little of time commitment as being willing to take a call to help on a resume or talk about a career, or it can be helping find internships or full-time positions. We have several Princeton rowers working at my firm, so I can attest to the fact that the excellence on the water translates to the workplace. So in any case, I'm going to turn it over to the coaches now and the captains, and then I'll come back to wrap up with our Princeton video. So Greg, go ahead.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Dave. It's exciting to see how many people are coming on here. It's interesting. I know this is normally a huge weekend on campus with reunions, and normally this would be coming up on that huge event that we would have down at the boathouse with the reunions row and the barbecue. The interesting thing about that is that as coaches, we never actually get to attend any of that. So this is the first time I've been to reunions in a long time. It's kind of cool. But yeah, just to kind of touch a little bit on the year, it was definitely a different kind of year. The challenges that we faced were things that, as we talked about it with our team right before we broke up and everybody went home, it's something that likely hasn't been seen since, arguably the World Wars. It's pretty significant, and it's very different. And as we talked about it, we talked about a couple of things with our team. And I think one of the things that was a common theme as we met up and talked, and each person spoke a little bit, was that we realized through the loss of the season was that while the racing does mean a lot to us, there's so much more value that comes out of what we do outside of the racing, and that the relationships we have, that daily experience of being in front of the boat bay with our teammates and doing those little things together every single day, the camaraderie, that is where so much of the value is for us. And that was not taken away, and we still have it. And we've been using Zoom pretty regularly with our team, just like this, to see everyone's faces and how powerful that is and uplifting. And I feel like we have this amazing group of people that pull us through these challenging times. And that's something special with rowing that we all feel. And then I think the second thing that we talked a lot about is that, look, in any moment, there are opportunities. And without a doubt, this window has created opportunities for us that have allowed us to do things that we've never been able to do. And I've noticed that for me as a coach. And I think one of the things I miss having the daily connection with the team all together. But what's been really amazing for me is just to see, after 25 years of coaching, that I can have a different kind of relationship with my athletes, and that's been very cool for me. The experience of being able to have that chance to connect with them one-on-one way more, to talk with them more about their whole life versus just what's happening down at the boathouse or out on the water. And that has been a very cool experience for me as a coach. And I think it's making me a better coach. It's been nice to be able to come and take a look at it from that perspective. I know that there's been some questions that have come out. People have been asking, hey, what does it look like for the fall? Where are we at and what's going to happen? And I think the short answer is we don't quite know yet. I think it's, like many of the other things in all of our lives, that's still being sorted out. The one thing I will say is that, I feel that the university they've been remarkable stewards through all of this. And I feel like we are extremely fortunate to have the administration that we have in the athletic department and up in Nassau Hall. They are very, very thorough and thoughtful, and they're making the best decisions that they can. And so the current status is that they are not going to make a decision on what we really try to have back here on campus in the fall. That's their ultimate goal. And is it possible? We don't know yet, but that's what they're working towards, and they're working really hard on it. And that's everything that we know on that front. So I think that's pretty much everything for me, and I'm happy to hand it off to any of the other head coaches. I think you're muted, Lori.
There, sorry, I know. I was trying to unmute myself. Oh my goodness. Technology, Greg. It's nice to see everyone. Well, I can't really see you. I can see your names, but it's wonderful to connect with so many. I agree with Greg about the connections have been so important during this time. I'm deeply touched by all the check-ins after the season was canceled. And I was invited to the class of 68 Zoom call, which was awesome. I can't believe that they remain so close. They're still talking about when their boat ran up on a log. How many years ago though? So many years ago. Well, not that many years ago. And then I recently received an email from Carol Bozarth, and I see she's on this call, and it's so nice. It was so nice to hear from her. Those connections mean so much. And I have been hearing from the first class I coached at Princeton, which was just only 30 years ago. So it's been wonderful. I want to thank you all for lifting us up. I think this alumni group is the best of any group I know. You have lifted us up with your support, but also with your enthusiasm and your care and your love, your concern. I mean, you truly are a part of this program forever, and it's impressive. I've not felt that anywhere else. I'd like to recognize the class of 1995. It's their 25th anniversary or reunion. So young. And they really blazed a trail. No class has ever equaled what they were able to accomplish while here at Princeton. So that class won every race. I think they lost one race that was out of season, was opening day at Washington, totally rigged. They went on to beat Washington at the national championship, so we don't count that. But they won every Eastern Sprints. They won every national championship. They were undefeated in their regular season for 4 years. So class of 95, thank you. It was an awesome streak. And thank you, Dan Rook, for leading the charge as head coach. I'd also, the current team, Dave asked that maybe I talk a little bit about the current team. We have about 45 women on our team. We graduated a big class last year, very strong class who taught this class very well. There are 11 2020s who are graduating soon, and we'll miss them terribly. I think it would have been a special year. We had a great fall. Won the Chase, came in 5th at the Charles, and I think we were ready, primed and ready for an awesome season and to shock the pants off some people too. That was the hope. In women's rowing, it remains competitive. I think it's only increasing. There are 97 Division I NC2A women's teams, rowing teams. Most have 20 full ride scholarships, if not all, except the Ivies. So we continue to battle. We continue to be contenders in an ever-growing field. We struggle sometimes, but in general, I think that I'm really proud of our group for always being in the fight. I guess it's my turn now to introduce the captains. Hadley Irwin is on this call, but not speaking. She's a co-captain with Emerson Solms. And Hadley was just named as a finalist for the Otto von Keenbusch Award, which represents the best athlete, female athlete at Princeton. And she won the Carol Brown Award, class of 75. Shout out to class of 75, 45th reunion, who were instrumental in building the team that we have now. And then Hadley's co-captain, Emerson Solms, was a finalist in the Art Lane Award, which is for community service. Awesome. And then won the class of 83 award with her teammate Molly Milligan for inspiring and contributing to the morale of our team. And then an interesting side note about Emerson, she also wrote her senior thesis on women's rowing, on women and their Olympic dream, the early oars women. So Carol Brown is featured in that, and she mentioned that she was inspired by Carol when she attended an alumni day in which Carol spoke about the challenges that they faced as a class starting rowing at Princeton. So it's really cool. I think you're talking next. If not, then I've introduced you, and you'll be up at some point. All right. Thank you, alumni. Thank you for your love.
All right. Would you like me to go, or would another?
Go ahead, Emerson.
All right. Yeah, it's really cool to see so many people here. I think I just want to speak a little bit to how much the Boathouse has meant to, every athlete on the team, especially the seniors over these past 4 years. Greg talked about the fact that while we really, really love racing, and kind of had a tough time letting that go this spring, we did not lose our teams this spring, and the amount of care and dedication that the coaching staff still showed every week, checking in, calling, having team Zoom calls, and the support network that we have in teammates and the friendships that we have in our teammates, those really did last through, even though we were not on campus and we weren't racing together. So, that impactful presence that we've had in the past 4 years and been so lucky to be a part of didn't leave in our senior spring. And I think that's a testament to how strong the teams are and the Boathouse is as a whole. We could have left and not had that, but it really stayed with us. And I still very much, until I graduate unofficially tomorrow, feel, that I am still on this team and have had such an amazing 4 years. And the coaches in particular have been incredible, working with Lori and having her as a mentor and coach, within rowing, she definitely made me a much, much better rower. But then just also in life, she has taught me so many things. And I know that's true for the other people on other teams with their coaches as well, that has been truly one of the most formative experiences of my Princeton career. And I just feel so lucky to have had that experience, and I will not forget it. So thank you.
Thanks, Emerson. So
I guess I'll I'll jump in now. I'd like to start by thanking all the alums who contributed to our Henley trip last summer. That was a really nice way to cap off a special year for us. Even though the organizers once again put us in the top tier race against open weight national team rowers from Britain. That's the second time they did that to us. They did that to us in 2011 as well. And I'm not bitter about that at all. But anyway, thank you. It was fun and it was a great year. And I think in talking about this year, we built off it and we were even faster. It was an amazing year for us. Starting with the head of the Charles. Quick story on that. We were sitting there, we were starting in second position for the Charles, and we were talking about sort of mindset going into the race. And I said, look, based on the last couple of years, I think we can beat Stanford, but it'll probably be only by a couple of seconds. So don't worry about them. They're out in first. Focus on BU behind us, push them away, and you might have a good shot at taking Stanford. So the first thing my crew did was they went off the line at like a 46, settled to a 37, and proceeded to get right onto the stern of Stanford in the first mile and just push them all the way down the race course. And it's a moment I'll never forget, watching them from my bike, going around the Cambridge turn on the outside and passing Stanford and just whooping it up. Just the athletes, you could tell they were gassed, but they were just loving the moment. And I think that summed it up. That sort of set the tone. I think it was right there that I realized that we've got a special crew, even faster than I thought. And then they backed it up a week later, which I think is important. They backed it up at the Chase. They beat Radcliffe and Georgetown by even more than they beat them at the Charles. And then the year just sort of went from there. We had a great indoor campaign, December and January. The training was fantastic. At the middle of the team really came up. Some people made some huge strides, and we started to see some real depth on the team. We had a freshman break the all-time record for 2K. She went 7:11, which is just hugely world-class, especially for a freshman. It's unbelievable. Probably the strongest lightweight in the country. And just a great human being. Super humble, really thoughtful, big-hearted, just a massive addition to the team. And so that was the winter, and then February came around. The weather was great. So we stopped focusing on the erg, and we put a lot of miles in. We rode a lot. Boats were going really well. Our 8 was flying, and I think maybe even more exciting was just how the 4 was going and the double. We felt like we had a real shot at the team title at the IRAs. I think the 8 would have won or had a great chance to win. And then we could have medaled in the double and 4 as well. So it was a lot of fun, and the team was super unified. And a big part of that was our seniors. Our seniors were amazing. We had this really cool dynamic between a very talented freshman class and great senior leadership. So yeah, it was a beautiful year. It was a really beautiful year. It was really cool to watch just how fast they got and how unified they got over the course of the year. I'm going to turn it over to Georgia. She's a big reason for the success we've had over the past 4 years. She's just a force of nature. I don't want to talk about her too much. I'll probably tear up. I miss her a lot. But she, it was such an incredible journey with our seniors, from where the team was their freshman year and how we just built things up to this year. It was just really an experience I'll never forget. And so Georgia, yeah, turn it over to you.
Thanks, Paul. A lovely introduction. Yeah, I want to just echo a couple of things that Paul said to begin with already. Firstly, about Henley last year. Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who helped us get there. Considering that we lost our racing this year, it was phenomenal to be able to end out basically my last racing season back home where I'm from, and getting a chance to race against some international competitors. And we definitely got beaten, but we learned a lot from it, and it was a really good time. And then, yeah, I think just to start off with, like, my favorite memory of the 4 years has got to be the head of the Charles this fall, finally beating Stanford, which was which was an incredible feat just to begin with, but also just seeing how much depth the team has got, and knowing that even though the seniors are graduating and we're horribly sad to be leaving, that we're leaving it in some really fast hands. We went off the line at a 46, and I was in the stroke seat, but I was not in control of that boat. The 3 freshmen who were in there are definitely good racers, and they were pushing it as hard as it could go, and they were a large part of what got us out of our second place funk, and helped us for our seniors to finish off our last season. We didn't know was our last racing on such a high, so that was amazing. And yeah, I think mostly what's been so meaningful to me for the last 4 years is just having the team. I think it's the boathouse and the lightweight crew team has just made Princeton a home in a way that I don't think it would have been had I not been a rower. And I think, yeah, to echo Greg and Emerson, like losing the racing at the end of the season was such a blow, and it was horrible. But as the time went on, I realized that it wasn't the racing that I missed. It was just the everyday activity of the boathouse and going down every day and seeing the same faces and feeling like a part of a big team and a big mission to do the best that we could and represent Princeton on a national stage. And yeah, it really made it a home for me. Another thing that has been so special about my time on the Princeton lightweight crew team has just been, yeah, as Paul said, the growth from when I was a freshman to when I'm a senior. We've been eating away at Stanford's lead for the last 4 years, and unfortunately we didn't get a chance to take them down at IRAs this year, but we've left the team on, I think, a much more developed point than we started it, and that's a lot down to the seniors in my class, like my co-captain Emma, who is such a rock for everyone, and some really great classes below us, the junior classes and sophomores and freshmen, and also the leadership that we've seen from the classes before us. I'm so lucky to call some of my best friends those people who we used to row with, who taught us a lot, and hopefully we'll stay in touch with for life. And finally, yeah, it's got to be Paul. Paul is a amazing coach, and he takes so much time to get to know each athlete on an individual level and help us perform the best that we can. I remember him saying to us when we were freshmen, like, make sure you speak out. You've got to make your presence known on this team, and you've got to make this team your own. And he really helped us to do that, encouraged us to do that. And the last 4 years have been probably the best 4 years of my life, and a lot of it was down to the Princeton Boathouse and the crew team and Paul. So I want to thank you for that.
Thanks, Georgia. So, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think so. I'm last. Well, maybe not totally last. And thanks for all the alums who are have joined us and current undergrads who are on the call. I won't. A lot of what I was going to say was already said, so I won't repeat it. And I'll just get to the real meaningful part of this call, which is turning things over to Adam. Very briefly, the lightweight men's team, we won the head of the Charles. We had a great race. We woke up in the morning. Our bowman, who's a current junior, said, "I'm not going to be able to row. My back." I woke up and it's just completely seized up. And I actually confidently threw a freshman in there into bow seat, and he rode those guys down the course, and they won by a couple seconds. Thanks to Yale for blocking Penn. Penn might have taken that, but Yale blocked them all the way down the course and added probably about 15 seconds at the time. So the head of Charles was great. That was a great weekend, and just to be able to share it with the lightweight women was made it even better. The ironic thing about this season, not being able to race it, was that we've never been more prepared, like literally never been more prepared. We got on the water on February 3rd. And sometimes you get on the water intermittently in February because the weather, like the lake freezes and it melts and it freezes and it melts, and you can't get any kind of continuity. But just looking at the weather forecast, the coaches actually were able to sit down and say, we're going to be able to be on the water every day if we want to be. I don't think the temperature ever went below 30. And so we had more water time, and we were rowing the best we've ever rowed on March 11th, just because we had more water time and ability to cycle lineups, and we're probably further along in selection than we'd ever been, just because we had the opportunity to try a bunch of different combinations. The other thing that was going to make this season special in my mind was that I think our league had 5 or 6 legitimately fast crews. I mean, we don't have that many lightweight teams in the country, and usually there's only 2 or 3 that could reasonably have a chance to win sprints or IRAs. This year, I think 5 or 6 legitimately had a chance to win sprints or IRAs on the right day. So I was really looking forward to racing every Saturday in the regular season, and then especially in the sprints and the IRAs. As all of us were, end of March and April, we were kind of dealing with the things that this outbreak kind of throw at you. But I really, and I just want to say to Adam and any of my guys who are on this call, I really, really started missing you guys. Probably the week before HYP, where we should have been going up to Cambridge this year, and running some train on Harvard and Yale would have been a blast. And I just missed that, especially that 5-hour trip. And then 2 weeks later, just missing sprints, and this week missing IRAs. I just miss you guys dearly. I love this time of year. I love this time of season, and just the way you guys have gone about it the last 2 years and doing so well at the IRAs. I feel like this is the year we're going to get over the top, and unfortunately, we'll just never know. But I'll just leave you with this before I turn it over to my captain, Adam Teese. And Theo Long was our other captain. He may be on the call, or he was traveling or something and wasn't sure about the timing. But the night the season was canceled, where we got the guys together, and everybody had some words to say, and I turned it over to the seniors, and all the seniors went around, and each one of them had something special to say. And it was so powerful, and I'll never forget it. Just right off the bat, how well these guys handled just having the season ripped away from them, and what they had to say about it, and just their mindset about how they wanted to think about it. And they shared some words that night. I don't know if Adam can allude to it a little bit, what was said that night. But it was just really positive. Rather than thinking about the 2 months that we weren't going to be able to finish, they immediately talked about the 3.5 years that they did have, and the journey that they don't have any regrets about in the 3.5 years that they did have. So I thought that was really special. But I will turn it over to Adam. I just want to prop him up a little bit, and he deserves every ounce of praise I can give him. Adam was just a finalist for the class of 1916 Cup, which is awarded to the top GPA for student athletes at Princeton. They ended up giving it to a Portuguese major, and I thought that was sort of I don't know why they did that. There were like some molecular biology majors and chemistry majors that were also finalists. But Adam didn't get it, but he was close. And congratulations, Adam. And that was a great way to be to represent lightweight men in that awards ceremony that was held the other night. Adam is a history major, and he's also, and Adam, I'm so pumped to follow you next year. Adam's a history major, and he's on his way to Oxford, where I believe you're going to continue to row, correct? That's awesome. And so we'll follow your next journey, and that's going to be really exciting. And I think you can make the blue boat. I expect you to make the blue boat. So best of luck. So I'll turn it over to Adam Teese, one of my captains this year.
Thanks, Monty. really excited. I'm lucky that rowing's not over for me, so I'm really looking forward to next year and being able to use some of the motivation from missing this season and transfer that to preparing for carrying on rowing. But you mentioned that meeting we had on the dock when we all came down to practice and we knew that the season was cancelled. And I think the most memorable thing was something that Theo said. I will say Theo, I think, has a bit of a gift of speaking a bit more than me. I recall the Princeton Chase this year. After our first race, we'd finished a disappointing third, I believe 9 seconds behind Penn, which was not what we'd hoped for. And it was pouring down with rain. A couple of guys had put their backs out. Didn't really seem like anybody wanted to get back out there. And Theo got us in a circle and just fired everybody up, got us going crazy. And we went out and won that last race. So, yeah, would have been nice to have Theo here, but he's obviously traveling. And what he said was that he didn't have any regrets whatsoever. Even though the season has been cancelled, we wouldn't have done anything different. Every day we come down to the boathouse and we just have a great time. No matter what sort of state of mind we're in with our academics and stress and personal lives, you sort of forget everything for 2 hours, an hour and a half every day, and just lay down some hard strokes with your best friends. So it's a really awesome thing, and we wouldn't have changed doing that every day this year and all the years before that. And I think the thing that came into my head on that dock was to think about my teammates, and not just the 40 guys who were sitting on the dock with me, the 4 years of rowers there, but also the 3 years of seniors that come before us. I think each year, for me personally, they all had a huge effect on me. Forrest, our captain, my freshman year, really just taught me what it meant to be a part of this team. He'd take me out for extra sessions in the pair, even though I was a new freshman, and I really appreciated that. And he really set the tone for what it meant to be a good teammate to me. So I want to thank all of those guys who come the past 3 years, who some of them I know will be my lifelong friends, and who've taught me really important lessons. And obviously, and the other sort of overwhelming emotion at that time, I think, was disappointment to not be able to race with the freshmen this year. I mean, a few others have mentioned how we missed the racing, but we found that we had so much more to find from just training, being together. But I really do think the spring racing season is something special, especially on our team, weighing in every week. You put your mind and body into that, and it seems that every year you kind of discover something about the new freshmen during the spring racing season. I was really excited to be able to race with those guys and see how they handled the excitement and the pressure of lining up against other teams and close racing every weekend. So I was really disappointed not to have that, but yeah, it was great to get to know the freshmen this year and all our teammates over the whole time at Princeton. Yeah, so I think that sort of sums up our feelings on that dock that day. We had a small senior class, so I'll shout out our other classmates, Dennis, Charlie, and Nico, who all stuck with it through 3.5 years of lightweight rowing, which isn't an easy thing to do. And I really appreciate those guys and the way they've supported me and the team over the past few years. So yeah, and just thanks to everyone else, the coaches, Marty, Kyle, Bill, who's now a coach on the women's team, but was a huge part of our team for the past 3 years, and Emma, who's been our volunteer assistant coach this year. They've all been great and super supportive. So yeah, thanks. And I guess I'll hand it over to David to finish things off.
Yeah, well, I can jump in. Thanks, Adam. That was meaningful, and thanks for having me. I'm kind of echoing what the previous captains and coaches have said already, but I think from the outside, rowing and sport in general is so often perceived as something that's so goal focused. The idea is that you pour everything you have into the preparation for a race, you execute that race, and then whether or not your time was well spent is sort of predicated on whether or not you won. And that perception was very apparent to me when I returned home at the outbreak of all of this pandemic. When I was greeted with all kinds of condolences, apologies, and best wishes for the season that we lost. But those who aren't part of this sphere seem to assume that I must have sort of felt as though everything was for nothing, that we'd sort of lost everything before we got the chance to execute that race. But I think since returning, I've had plenty of time to reflect on this year and the three which came before it. And what surprised me is that I don't really feel that way at all. I don't feel like I wasted any time. Of course, I was gutted not to get the chance to race my senior season. I think particularly, Greg alluded to, I think we had a fall and a winter and an early spring, which suggested that we might have been on the cusp of achieving a lot of stuff, which I think people perhaps didn't expect us to be capable of. But no part of me felt anything when I got home but gratitude for the year that we had. I've always said when anyone asks me about Princeton Rowing that beyond the sort of inevitable athletic improvements and experiences that come with being part of any fast team, what's made Princeton Rowing really so special to me is the growth that I've experienced as a person as a result of the people that I've had the pleasure of calling teammates and coaches during my time here. Whilst I hope I still have a good few more years of rowing in me yet, there will obviously come a time where rowing at this level will be behind me. I hope that I can spend a good portion of my time in the immediate aftermath of my rowing career reversing all of the positive effects that the training's had on my general health. And so my time would have been wasted if all I'd garnered from this experience was the ability to row faster. I think so many people being on this call, 80 odd people that we've got here today, really manifests the fact that this community goes so far beyond that in a manner which very few other teams manage. We've had members of several legendary H Crew classes join our team Zoom calls that Greg mentioned earlier over the past few months. And it's been palpable when hearing everyone talk that the connection to H Crew is as strong as it's ever been, even after, in some cases, it's been several decades since people, last wore the Princeton P in anger. I think this year was so special because the way that it ended made it so clear to me that what I've actually kept turning up to the boathouse for, whilst I might not have realised it at the time, it wasn't really the shirts or the medals or the silverware or any of that. It was the people. And we raced 0 times this year, and yet I left campus feeling more attached to the team and somehow more fulfilled than I really ever had done before. It didn't matter that we hadn't raced because the people I'd met along the way and the value of the entire journey of this year transcended any medal that we stood to win in the coming months. So, all I can really say to wrap things up at this point is thank you to everyone that continues to be involved in the Princeton Rowing family, for being part of that community, which allowed me to learn more about myself and create more meaningful relationships without ever even really making it to the start line than most people have the privilege of experiencing across an entire lifetime. So, just thank you to everyone that's here today and the people that weren't able to be here today for making this a very special 4 years.
Thank you, David. And thank you, coaches and captains. 2 years from now, we're going to celebrate the 150th anniversary of heavyweight rowing, the 100th anniversary of lightweight men's rowing, the 50th of open women, and the 25th of lightweight women. I mean, that's just an incredible legacy. I promise we will have a big blowout and not a Zoom call. But nevertheless, I think we should end this call right before we go to the video, really saying thank you to our seniors. I mean, I think we've all had races where we were tested mentally and physically, and we had to make the decision whether or not we were going to win or fold it. And I think certainly in their 3.5 years on the water, and then the way they represented us for the 6 months off the water, I mean, they certainly have left the Princeton Rowing legacy better than they found it, and we appreciate them for it. So with that, I will turn it over to Dan to play the video, and we will post both the video and the video of this Zoom afterwards for any who couldn't make it at the time. So Dan, go ahead and play the video. Thank you, everyone.
Great video.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye, George.
Thank you, David. Thanks for the video, Dan.
Yeah.
That was great. Thanks,
Yeah,
Adam.
thanks a lot. Thanks
Thanks,
all the
captains.
captains. Thank you.
You guys are great.